How's it going, YouTube? Welcome to the day 9 review of the $24 to $1,000 challenge. Wasn't a great day, but let's have a look at what exactly happened during this sessions. So we cut the sessions a little bit in 3 parts, but first of all, I want to basically show you guys a graph and explain a little bit about these lines and what they mean. As you can see here, we got one of the most important lines. It's basically the hands you're winning in showdowns. This is the blue line here. And you can see it's basically the opposite of the red line down here. And the point is really that most fields that people are not folding for the red line, which is basically when you fold or when you're basically, raking money and, just the money you lose when you fold, you have to counterfeit that with, the pots that you're winning. And that's the blue line. It's when you go to showdown and, try to show down the best hand possible. That's why also when you're, playing very showdown bound poker, meaning you go to showdown a lot, it's very important that you have the hand, best hand more often than not. And that's really how the blue line gets created. And here you can see, regardless of stakes, how that happened traditionally in my sample of almost 300,000 hands. And you can see also this arrow down here. It's basically where I started the bankroll challenge. And you can see it got really worse with the red line, meaning I am losing more red line in 2-cent, 5-cent games than or 1-cent, 2-cent games that I'm losing at the higher stakes, 50 cents, $1. Why is that? Well, nobody's really ever folding. That means that the blue line at the same time has to go up a little bit stronger in big bets. And it really did for a long time in 1-cent, 2-cent. You can see that the, the incline here, when you see, okay, it is almost like this. And then now it goes, steeper over here. And it's the same thing with the red line down here, okay? So, these lines will converge. Is that correct? No, they will do the opposite. They will go in different directions when you go to microstakes. So this is basically 2-cent, 5-cent, and 1-cent, 2-cent territory here. So I just want to explain how that works with those lines. With that out of the way, let's have a look at the 2-cent, 5-cent games that I've played. And you can see this is just a sample of 7,000 hands. I got absolutely destroyed on the 2-cent, 5-cent games. And the reason for this is basically this traditionally strong blue line, instead of being on the positive end, it was just not there. Like it's completely the opposite. On a small sample, the blue line I didn't win pots. I didn't go to showdown having the best hand almost ever, like maybe 10 times or so instead of 50 times. I think this graph could have been totally okay if only I had won 30, 40 more pots that I would traditionally win in a sample of 7,000 hands for quite some big bets. And this just did not happen. Yeah, this is really how PLO can go sometimes. And then you can also obviously see, okay, why was that not the case? And did I just not get any value hands? You can basically do that and go into the positional tab, which you can see here. And here you can already find like some hints that happened. You can, for example, see that my MP3 bet was only 2.6%, my cutoff 3 bet was 5%. So it was all a little bit on the lower end. Also mixed with no limit holdem, where I would traditionally maybe 3 bet 8% or 9% overall, especially in these positions, maybe even 10% or more sometimes, depending on who folds a lot to 3 bets. So this didn't go well at all. And you can see also that in the blinds, I lost a lot of red line in the big blind. Probably also then when I did re-steal a 3 bet that I basically ended up check folding a lot of flops. Now, you can basically filter also the whole thing and see, okay, what were the biggest pots played and where did it really go wrong. And let me just quickly see what happened here. This is just the last 150 hands, so you have to click on all hands. And you can basically look at the biggest pots that you've been winning. I would generally do that and see, okay, was I just not winning big pots? And yeah, you can see it. Not only did I run below EV, but the big pots were only 4 pots that I was winning in 7,000 hands. And of course, there's some 100 big blind stack-offs down here as well. But you can then check and go over the hands And then I think I'm gonna just go for data range. What was that? I'm going over to sessions because I don't want to really show some hands that I've shown in the last videos. So I'm just going to mark those two, just the last session that you don't see new hands. And you can see, okay, I played quite some hands here on 2 cent, 5 cent again. And yeah, I can mark basically the biggest pots of the day and what happened. So here I got the ace, 8, 7, 6, 7, so a quite nice hand. And I got min 3-bet. And I thought, okay, this is a 4-bet hand for me. And I got called by both players. Flop really great. Money goes in well, and I win the pot, which is nice. Here I have a hand that can call the 3-bet. I flop decent and get the money in, but lose against aces. Here I have aces myself. I 3-bet. Bet small, get called by 2 people, check the turn with trips, and then check call here against the Brazilian player, just jams kings, which is also nice. So when you can see that they make such huge mistakes, it doesn't even take that much luck for you to win these big pots. They should really come up more often than just, 4 or 5 times over a sample of 7k hands, because all you need is like a pair of aces in PLO, someone else kings, and then a pair board, and there you go. The guy already makes a very, very big mistake. And it doesn't really take that much on these low stakes. So your blue line went to showdown line should be actually performing much better. Here, this looks much worse than it is. I have a pair and a gut shot. And in this instance here, if he didn't have a gut shot here, the 10-8 draw, he would actually be flipping. And sometimes he also has to bet fold on this texture if he just has bare aces, which I thought, this was going to happen often enough with him c-betting maybe a little bit too much. So I'm fine with that, but with this here, I'm fine with the pre-flop play, with the squeeze. But then on the flop, I probably should just go for the check fold. I don't have any spades. I don't have enough backdoor equity to go for a c-bet bluff. I was obviously bet folding here on the flop and then jamming hearts turns like this one. But at the same time, it's probably not good enough to make and go for this play, because it's still very likely that once you have those 2 suits here, that he has spades and then you're absolutely crushed. And if he has a made hand, then, you're also getting into those situations here, which, on the turn, it's not that bad. But at the same time, maybe you don't have that much fold equity because of the amount of spades and a queen in his hand. Here, I 4-bet aces, get called, which is obviously terrible by him. He goes check, check, and then check raise all in on a turn in a SPR1, where he just takes a stab, calls it off with 15%, and we take down each. But again, it didn't take much. It didn't really take much from my opponent. I didn't take a lot of luck to just stack them. I just needed a decent holding on the flop in a 3-bet pot, and they committed quite some mistakes. Here, money goes in with top pair and a gutter on a rainbow texture, pretty standard. Here I 3-bet again with aces, bet the flop, bet the turn, and then in the river SPR 0.5. I go for the check here, seeing that I block also the a7 and these types of hands, and 8-9 could have gotten there. He goes out and goes all in, and I ended up calling here. It's pretty tough for me to fold this, especially to 7-5, and then given that there was also spades and I've just the ace of spades. But usually when they have the nut flush draw here, which, it doesn't really matter that I'm blocking the nut flush draw, because I said that also in stream, when people have the nut flush draw here on the river, they also have showdown value since they have 2 pair. And when they have 2 pair, they're not going to turn their hands into a bluff here on the river. But when they don't have 2 pair, when they have like a jack high flush draw, king high flush draw, queen high flush draw, then it's, much easier for them to bluff the river since they don't have showdown value. So you don't want to have the queen of spades, jack of spades, or king of spades here, because you're basically blocking those turned hands that he could maybe have some more 1-pair hands with the spades that he could turn into a bluff, which didn't happen in this case. Here I ended up raising ace jack check deuce and getting it in on the flop, but then he shifts, makes a good play, waits for the non-spade turn, gets the money in, and the money goes in a little bit bad here in the 0.3 SPR situation, unfortunately. Ace king jack 10, calling a 3-bet, getting the money in with a nut flush draw, pretty standard, because he cannot just back call everything that he's 3-betting there. And we should have some fold equity along with equity. 4-bet aces get called. No, actually the money goes in and he takes on 100 big blinds. Here I 4-bet. He calls me with a double suited hand. Unfortunately flops 64% in an SPR of 1.3. And yeah, it is what it is. Number hand 13 out of 14, I 3-bet, get called. Flop top set. Get check ripped on and, you know, take down this pot. And then another queen jack 9-5 double suited. Check raise flop maybe. Nope. I bet turn he raises jam. Free roll him for 10% of equity. Get there on the river. Very nice. So all in all, these were just the biggest pots of the day number 9. And unfortunately, just there weren't that many. That is really a little bit the case. Also, when you look and include the even worse day, maybe on the day before, when it comes to 2 cent, 5 cents, also a no limit hold'em, you can see that, you know, the amount of stack offs where, you know, I just won 100 big ones from opponent weren't that many. You really need more than that. As I said, you know, this blue line here really has to go up all the time. And unfortunately, when I started playing 2 cent, 5 cent, I just didn't, you know, got to showdown with better hands. That's just it. The good hands were not there. I also posted it on my Discord, basically showing some just small wait, where was that? Updates and deep runs. And you can see that, as it was probably biggest loss rate I could ever have. And you can see that I was actually 3-betting 1.6 in MP, 3% in the cutoff, and 2% on the button over the last 3 key hands that I played on day 9, which is definitely super untypical. I filtered for hands and I didn't really find that many 3-bet hands that I missed. Maybe just a few, but not enough to say that I was just misplaying stuff. Sure, I found some, you know, here and there mistakes that I've done, and again, try to find like the big picture stuff. For example, in the position, just look at a larger sample on the micros, what I could just do differently. That for, you know, the number 10 it will go much better. So that leaves us in day number 9 with only $58. So another shot at 2 cent, 5 cent gone wrong in this bankroll challenge. It will be very tough to come back after this. I will still gonna try, but I'm going to not do the 3 days in a row bankroll challenge thing anymore. I really didn't feel well after these 3 days. On Wednesday, I had to take a day off after playing 30,000 hands in just 3 days. And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna continue on Monday and, you know, see in which interval I'm gonna do a day more in the bankroll challenge. By the way, if you're not following on Instagram, you could also see that I was actually running really pretty hot, going back to PL 100 on the weekend. I can just maybe get rid of the filter real quick, clear the filters here, see the data range. Come on, can do it. So you can see over the last couple of sessions, I'm up about 1.5K almost, because I ran super hot. You can see it sometimes I got it in good, sometimes not so good. But all in all, pretty nice result the last couple of days, just playing a couple of hours on PLO 100. So it's definitely not just a game, and I guess it's just part of it that, you know, even on the micro stakes, that, you know, variance is gonna happen. You know, 10,000 hands a day is probably not the AA plus game, but I thought it was still going to be good enough. You know, playing 10,000 hands a day on micros, I think I gave him my best. I tried to really still game select, sit out regular speed tables that were not good for me, try to switch between zoom and non-zoom. So I was still there with my head, but, you know, at the same time, it's definitely not AA plus. I was definitely also very annoyed, but at the same time, yeah, I guess this is just what you're going to experience. So if it's going to happen to me as a mid-stakes player, if you're having a hard time with 10,000 hands, you think just back of this. It's just going to happen. 10,000 hands of not winning hands. It is just what it is. It's not only happening on your highest stakes or on your highest limit that you can beat. It's also going to happen on the lowest or lower limits, where rake is also quite high. When you have a look at the rake again, I maybe can mention that here the rake is already at $135 at this point. So yeah, with a little bit of rakeback, we would have actually done quite okay. And I think with old stars rakeback of 30-40%, I would actually have quite a decent shot at this bankroll challenge going much better. But without rakeback, maybe it's just like not just that great. I might move over things to another site, maybe at some point, just trying to, you know, make this happen in the end, or, you know, restart the bankroll challenge on another site if it's just not that great on PokerStars. And, you know, I want to basically show you the advice that I have for you when you want to make $1,000 on microstakes. So if the advice is not good to play on stars, the rake is so quite high in the competition, not nearly as soft as on other sites on those 2 cents, 5 cents, then, you know, I could just move things over to another site and see, you know, whether that goes better for me and would be a better advice for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and, you know, let me know here with a thumbs up if you did, and also subscribe to the channel. I will be back on Monday, and also maybe before that for another normal stakes PLO stream. But yeah, enjoyed you know, this challenge so far, at least from the Twitch end side of things, and not from the how it went. So yeah, hope you guys keep going with this with me, and we'll see you guys each other on Monday.